This is ABC 7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. Topping our news tonight, the cost of defending our nation on the families of our soldiers. On Memorial Day, we honor those who fought and died for our country. Tonight, we take a moment to consider the impact on their families. At the Sarasota National Cemetery, dozens of families came out to place flowers and memorials to their loved ones. In the last decade alone, more than 2,000 U.S. soldiers have died in combat, many of them leaving behind families. And that loss comes with it both financial and emotional toll. One local veteran says the holiday is as much for them as it is for the fallen soldiers.
On this particular holiday, we not only honor those who gave it all, but we honor those families, those wives, those girlfriends, those children who really don't know definitively what happened to Dad or what happened to their mother.
An estimated 1.1 million Americans have died in combat defending our country. Across the Suncoast, Memorial Day events honoring the fallen in Sarasota. Hundreds came out this morning, many dressed in the red, white, and blue, and lined the streets of downtown. The parade made its way down Main Street and Osprey Avenue. Veterans led the march, but they were not alone. Law enforcement, ROTC, fire department, students, and color guards marched. Many we spoke to say it is important to remember the real meaning of Memorial Day.
It's encouraging that they know what the history is about and what happened and what we went through.
It is so important because those people paid a tremendous price for us to be free today.
Today's parade wrapped up with a ceremony at 5 Points Park. This year's theme is Legacy, a Debt Owed. Hundreds turned out at Patriots Park in Venice this morning, laying wreaths for the fallen. The ceremony brought together veterans from World War II to Iraq. Manatee County also remembered those who gave their lives. A ceremony was held at Veterans Park in Bradenton. Many of those being remembered today lost their lives in Vietnam. One veteran told us why this day has become so important to him.
I lost many friends. It's something that we really have to think about deep into our heart. As you enter the military and you learn so much more after you're in, you're dedicated to serve wherever, however, and to obey whatever.
Manatee's Vietnam War Memorial is now in Veterans Park after being moved from the courthouse. There is also a Korean War monument at the park. So today we remember and honor those who fought for us. It is also the unofficial start of summer, and if you are one of the lucky ones to get to the beach, and we were not, your biggest challenge was probably finding a parking space. The beaches were packed and the parking lots were even worse. At Siesta Beach, sheriff's deputies were patrolling and making sure minor arguments didn't erupt into big trouble.
We brought in additional resources to help manage the large crowds, and we're just making sure that everyone is here to have a safe time with their friends and families and enjoy the holiday weekend together.
Businesses were enjoying the holiday as well. More people means more profit. The city of Palmetto is also getting a financial boost. News today of a federal grant to help revitalize the land along the Manatee River. Palmetto will soon be receiving $250,000 in federal money. The money will be spent on an acre and a half that was set idle for many years. The mayor hopes the grant will help make a property center for the community.
It improves the values all around it, and it makes it of use to the community and of some vibrance to the community.
The property was once a rail yard. The grant money will help remove hazardous soil. And all in all, Steve, it was a great day today. Some rain earlier in the day.
And those storms are maturing, but there's one around Port Charlotte we'll look at in a minute that's still a problem, producing some hail and maybe some flash flooding. But all in all, it was a great holiday weekend. If you could get to the beach and got over the bridges, that was another big challenge, Alan, was getting across the bridge to the beach. Take a look at current conditions at Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. 86, dew point 68, humidity 55%, and the sea breeze still blowing at 10 miles an hour. Our highs were pretty close to normal, only 1 degree above normal for the high. Last night's low 72, 2 above. It's been as cold as 54. Boy, feel good back in 1911. Now, the collision of the Atlantic sea breeze and the Gulf sea breeze has produced some fairly hefty storms with some hail and locally gusty winds. The one we're really worried about right now has been just parked right on top of Port Charlotte since about 6:05, 6:10, and you can see there dime-sized hail possible. And because it hasn't moved, there could be some flash flooding in there in the kind of the northwestern corner of Port Charlotte on the way to Northport, right over the Tamiami Trail. Also looks like we're getting some fairly hefty storms. Now, here is the forecast for tonight, showing those interior storms dissipating as they move westward. By midnight, we can see a few pass overhead as they diminish, but generally I think it's going to be a dry evening. Tomorrow afternoon, we're seeing not as many buildups of the storms in the interior. Hopefully things will be a little drier then. Here's our forecast for tonight. Clearing overnight. Our low temperature is 71 with light winds. Our average temperature for this time of year is 70, and tomorrow a partly sunny day with only about a 20% chance of inland showers or thunder showers, high 89, and that sea breeze kicking in 5 to 10 during the afternoon. Now, we're going to have a chance of showers right on through next weekend, 40% chance on Wednesday as well as next Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And Alan, we're keeping a close eye on the tropics. Maybe this time next week we could see things start to heat up in the Caribbean and southern Gulf of Mexico. Just an early hint.
Oh, joy. Thanks a lot, Steve. And still to come, as we honor the fallen, is there more that could be done to help our veterans? We look back on the problems keeping them from getting health care, plus what some groups are doing to show their respect. Our extended roundtable when we come back.
The all-new MySuncoast.com. Just another way we're here for you.
For your plumbing, electrical, or air conditioning, and services is qualified, and service calls are free. And services.com, A-N-D, services.com.
Hurricane season is here, and once again, ABC7 is providing you vital information you need to protect your family and property when severe weather threatens the Suncoast.
Hurricane season is here. We'll show you how to prepare, and we'll open up the My Suncoast helpline to answer your questions on putting together your readiness plan and survival kit.
Join the official Suncoast Storm Team for Surviving a Hurricane, a live presentation of ABC7, your Suncoast News, Wednesday, June 1st at 7.
You know what scares me? No electricity. Yeah, when this magical box suddenly stops working, I call the pros at Mr. Sparky and they send a superhero to save the day. How's it going, Pablo?
It's going great, Mike.
Pablo possesses amazing skill. He can perform incredible feats at blinding speed. Superhero!
Couldn't have done it without you.
Modest, too.
Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Just to be clear, I don't live here.
Did you know? Many dogs are returned to shelters simply because they lack obedience. Contact Canine Corral about various training programs. We train dogs and their owners. Canine Corral, where the love is.
Over the past month, we have brought you stories about veterans, from the battles they are still waging to the memories that they are sharing and the challenges many are still facing now. In honor of Memorial Day, we look back on those stories, and joining us is ABC7 reporters Ray Collins and Adam Cellini, who did terrific stories on veterans issues over the past month. And we're going to start with our first story, which was about blue water veterans. And these are veterans who served on naval vessels off the shore of Vietnam. They never stepped foot on Vietnam, but many are suffering health effects from what they believe is Agent Orange that was on aircraft that flew combat missions over Vietnam, and of course Agent Orange was a defoliant. One of the veterans, his name is Ronald Babcock, and he served on the USS Ticonderoga during the Vietnam War. He is part of this group called the Blue Water Veterans, and he explains how he discovered the connection between his illness and Agent Orange.
We never really paid a lot of attention. They seemed to be a little dusty, but we didn't pay a lot of attention to it as we climbed all over the plains to do our jobs. We drank it, we bathed in it, we cooked in it, and we climbed all over the plains that flew through it. I've had 9 different bladder cancer surgeries. It dawned on me that, wait a minute, none of these illnesses run in my immediate family. Perhaps they're attached to contact with the herbicide called Agent Orange.
What's incredible about this is that Senator Bill Nelson is sponsoring a bill in the Congress to get these veterans service connection. It's a bipartisan effort. You have Republicans and Democrats doing it, and yet nothing has happened. And that seems to be the case with a lot of these issues that deal with our veterans. As much as we say we honor them, when it gets to Congress, it takes an awful long time.
Now, this is a topic we've not really heard much about years ago, right?
You know, it was long established, the connection between Agent Orange and cancer. But, and those veterans who served in Vietnam get direct benefits for that. But the issue with the Blue Water veterans, this basically came to light in the last decade, and they've been fighting this battle ever since.
Whole new issue.
Well, it's eye-opening. I mean, you know, you got veterans that served, obviously, served their country and helped out, but because they didn't go, I guess, to the right geographical area, you know, they can't get the same benefits. That's tough.
You know, it's one thing dealing with issues like this in terms of Vietnam. It's another thing dealing with our older veterans, and they are a declining population. We are losing more and more of them every day. And Ray, you really got to do something extraordinary, and that is go on what we call an honor flight, which is gathering mostly World War II veterans and taking them to Washington. And you saw some extraordinary interchanges. Why don't you tell us about it?
It was an amazing thing. I went with 80 veterans, mostly World War II veterans, to the nation's capital, and they were treated like rock stars, like the heroes that they are, no question about it. At every stop, people would say to them, "Thank you for your service, sir or ma'am." It gave me the chills, because our greatest generation, as we sadly know, the numbers are dwindling down to 400,000 nationwide. And they're finally getting 110% respect like they always should have gotten.
Tell us about the moment where they basically came across active duty military folks in the airport.
There was quite a sight there at the Baltimore-Washington airport when we were arriving, 80 veterans in wheelchairs, and we looked down to the first floor, and there we saw active duty veterans arriving from Germany. It was such a confluence of events to see these two generations, both veterans of much different eras, and off we went in the wheelchairs back to our gate.
Now, you spent the day touring the different war memorials in Washington, and had some extraordinary scenes there. I remember some veterans meeting up with some Japanese tourists, but when they came back, that was an absolutely incredible scene. Why don't you tell us about that?
We had no idea the extent of the welcome home. It turned out there were hundreds, if not thousands of people at the St. Pete Airport to welcome home these veterans. It was publicized in the Tampa Bay area. We've got some video now of what it looked like on that evening. About a month ago, these veterans, one by one, "Welcome home, sir. Thank you for serving," as if they had just gotten home for the first time. "Welcome home, sir." I followed behind, and I just got the chills watching this outpouring of love and support as they worked their way from the airport, from the airplane rather, all the way down the hallway into the lobby where there was a band waiting for them. It was just one of the most inspiring stories I have covered in 30 years.
Is it possible to say what this meant to them?
I think they were so pleased. I get the chills again just watching this video. I think that they were so honored to receive this support. They were shocked, I think, at the level throughout the day. It was a day they'll never forget. It was a day I'll never forget as well.
All right, excellent. All right, gentlemen, we have to take a brief break, but when we come back, we will have more of our roundtable when we return.
At ABC7, our entire weathercast is dedicated to the Suncoast, and now we bring it to you like never before with the all-new official Suncoast forecast. Beach and boating forecast. The winds will be out of the northwest at 10 knots.
Now, with the most advanced graphics and technology, we bring you weather where you live, pinpointing right down to your neighborhood. Zooming into the Sarasota Bayfront,
the all-new official Suncoast forecast, only on ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
They took that stress and that tension when I was particularly feeling very bad after that nasty car accident, and it was such a relief to know that I didn't have to bear that burden alone, that I had help.
Our goal is to not just get a satisfactory settlement on their case. We want them up on their feet, happy again. They've gotten their life back.
A
Attention, this is an important message for anyone who had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to their heart or lungs. Did your IVC filter move, break, or cause organ damage? The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, even death. If you or a loved one suffered serious complications, call IVC Filter Helpline now. You may be entitled to compensation. IVC filters are designed to prevent blood clots. If your IVC filter moved or broke and you suffered heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, or if a loved one died as a result, call IVC Filter Helpline today. Our network of experienced attorneys is ready to fight for you. You'll pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. Call today for a free confidential consultation. Don't fight this alone. Call IVC Filter Helpline now.
Please call 800-897-6764. That is 800-897-6764.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're talking about issues affecting veterans here on the Suncoast with ABC 7 reporters Ray Collins and Adam Cellini. And Adam, you did an incredible story about the issues involving employment with veterans, both from Vietnam all the way up to Iraq war vets. And what's incredible is that, you know, we honor our vets and we talk about that all the time, but that doesn't necessarily translate to veterans getting the jobs that they need in the workplace.
Yeah, well, Alan, you mentioned the range there, Vietnam to, you know, these recent Iraq war veterans, and each group has a different struggle. As we know, the Vietnam veterans came back and a lot of people turned their backs to them, and that was just society as a whole. And a lot of the issues they faced were very personal. They were adjusting to civilian life. People weren't diagnosing PTSD, and that got in the way of reacclimating to civilian life, finding a career, and coming back. Recently, the job market has changed. It's not, you know, go back to your mom and pop store, go back to your family-run business. You're filling out resumes, you're applying for jobs, and when you put down the experience you gained in the war, serving your country, unless you're applying for a job and a veteran is looking at that resume, it doesn't carry as much weight as it should.
Case in point was somebody that you spoke to, a veteran named Kevin Williams, who had just found work at the State College of Florida, but it was not an easy road for him. Here he is.
If you hadn't been in the military and then had that specific training, work, job experiences, how could you relate? And it made it very difficult for me to explain to people, well, this is what I did, this is why I did it, this is what happened. They had no point of reference for that.
I don't know what the answer to that is, because in our modern day job market, and there's been some discussion about it, a lot of times when you apply for jobs, there's a computer program that searches for different things that automatically pop up, but the experience one gets from being in the service doesn't always translate to that.
It's tough, and you know, there are services out there that try to connect the dots for them. We spoke with Goodwill Minnesota, who has a veteran services group that helps them fill out their resumes, helps them change some of the wording from Army lingo to, you know, job lingo, and really translate that experience to what it would mean in the workplace. But there are other issues. You know, there are Army medics military medics that come back, and they have to go back and get recertified in all those different training that they received from the country spent money on.
And when it comes to that, there's the director of services called CJ Bannister. She says that many of these veterans have skills, but they are told that they are still in need of training.
But it's a tragedy that he can't find a job paying more than $9 to $10 an hour. He's 45 years old. He's served 25 years. That's a long time. That's a long time to serve at one company and then have to start over. It's taking them a year before they can even go back to work, which to me is nonsense. If you're on the combat field and you're an EMT, you're probably going to be doing just fine in an ambulance.
I mean, what is being done to overcome that?
Well, really, it's I think from what I can tell, it's the services like Goodwill Minnesota that are trying to put veterans in the right jobs, put veterans in touch with the people that can help them. There are also wheels turning in Congress. They want to take away, you know, that kind of bridge period where you have to go get recertified and spend your own money. The wheels are turning on laws, things to take those kind of obstacles away from our veterans and help them get jobs. But even all these people mentioned, it's not just on us. You know, the veterans are trying to do their part as well. it's all about just finding the right place at the right time and really that right career after service.
Incredibly, Congress is tinkering around with the GI Bill, which has helped so many veterans get an education. And if they don't want the money for the education, pass it to their spouse or their children. It's one of the things that just drives people crazy. And Ray, the other thing is the VA. And this has been an issue for years through Republican and Democratic administrations, that it seems that the VA is such a large bureaucracy, it just can't get things right. And, you know, obviously this all came to the surface in terms of the national scandal involving VA wait times. Right. So as a response, Congress came up with this plan that ironically was spearheaded by Bernie Sanders and John McCain, and it was called Veterans Choice. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, Congress passed a $10 billion plan called Veterans Choice, and this was installed in about 90 days. So everyone says on both sides this was rushed into service. And the VA admits it's not perfect, it's a work in progress. So some people say this has been the greatest thing ever. Others say it's not working.
As an example, the Veterans Choice Program is complicated even for people who try to help others navigate it. Here's Stephen Garcia. He is the Veterans Services Officer on the Suncoast.
It was like a Band-Aid, you know, pretty much was a Veterans Choice. Like, hey, all these people are complaining, all these people are having these issues. Let's do something. You know, let's make it look like we're actually doing something. And it seems like now we have this middleman we have to go through, and this middleman has no idea what's going on.
What is so maddening about that is our healthcare system is difficult for just all of us to navigate, but now you're dealing with a population, some of it who have severe health problems, traumatic brain injury, and they have to navigate this new bureaucracy.
For the VA to now be in the health insurance business, that is to subcontract with private insurers, that was not one of their original charges as an administration, and now they're doing that as well. And the fellow you just heard from, Stephen Garcia, has such a unique perspective. He is a veteran, he's now helping other veterans, and he's not sure this program is working.
So what happens now? Because obviously it would have to be up to Congress to make any kind of changes for it. Congress created the program just a couple of years back, but even our local congressman, Vern Buchanan, isn't completely up to date with what is going on here. Here's a comment from Congressman Buchanan.
I'm all about the veterans. We've done a lot in terms of veterans issues, especially as it relates to health care. There's been issues about health care in general, not being processed timely, things that were taking a month or two. I've heard it's got better, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I'd have to take a look at exactly what you're talking to or referring to there, and I'll be glad to get back to you, Ray.
So, Ray, what is Congress going to be doing at that, keeping in mind that Congress is going to break until the fall in just a couple of weeks?
Well, it's only been a year and a half, but still that's a lot of money being spent in the meantime. But I talked to the VA spokesman who says, we admit this is a work in progress, begging for patience, realizing it's not perfect yet. I think if we're still in this situation maybe 6 months or a year from now, some serious changes will be made.
The problem here on the Suncoast, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have two VA facilities in our area. One is Bay Pines at Pinellas, the other is the James Haley Veterans Hospital in Tampa, and that is a long drive for veterans, not only here in Sarasota County and Manatee, but go, Naples and farther south.
There are two clinics, by the way. There's a clinic on State Road 64 in Manatee County, and also a clinic on Bee Ridge Road around Honore in Sarasota County.
And is that really picking up the slack for the veterans around here who need the help?
Well, I happened to bump into one veteran in the parking lot when I was doing a story out there, and he said, this has been great. So not everyone is against this Veterans Choice. For some, it is working.
And Adam, you've done a lot of these veterans stories over time. You've talked to Stephen Garcia, who really has a Herculean effort around here in terms of getting the veterans the help that they need. From your discussions with him and the stories that you have done, are things improving at all?
I think things are improving, but I think one major obstacle is getting veterans in touch with the help, and it's a pride thing sometimes. And a lot of directors of a lot of different veteran services have said the same thing. It's very hard for some of these men and women to ask for help when they come back and realize that we are helping, but once they go for that help, once they look and seek that help, it's like a roller coaster ride. Immediately it's downhill and it starts coming from all directions, and really they can get back on their feet in certain situations. But one of the biggest blocks is sometimes just finding that help.
Is it a generational issue? You know, I heard some discussion on television today when everybody was coming back from World War II. There were a lot of people, because so many of us, or so many of our parents served in World War II, that these vets knew a lot of people who were in similar circumstances. But when you get to Vietnam, when you get to Iraq and Afghanistan, with a voluntary military, it is harder for the veterans to find somebody else that they had the same circumstance with.
I would think it has changed a great deal. I've only covered this briefly, but I do know some World War II veterans who have post-traumatic stress syndrome, but there was nothing in place for them when they first got back. They weren't seeking treatment at that point. Sometimes it's manifesting right now for them.
Okay,
gentlemen. A number of Vietnam veterans, I mean, it's a trust issue with them. You know, they don't trust the help right away, and then they need some time sometimes.
Right. And that'll have to be our last word. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in just a moment.
They're coming from Tampa, Fort Myers, even Orlando. They're coming from everywhere to Sarasota Ford, because Sarasota Ford guarantees you our lowest price on every new Ford every day. Save on America's best-selling truck, 39 years running, the Ford F-150. Fusions, Escapes, over 800 vehicles on-site or online, all on sale. Buy with 0% for 60 months. And now, get up to $2,000 trade assistance. That's why they're coming from everywhere to Sarasota Ford, where 41 meets 301. SarasotaFord.com.
US Med has great news for anyone living with diabetes.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, US Med will ship a new glucose meter right to your home.
And shipping is free.
My new meter uses only a speck of blood, so it's less painful than my previous meter.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, you're covered with US Med. We're welcoming new patients, even if your current provider can't supply you anymore.
I don't even have to test on my fingers anymore. I can test on my hand or forearms, and it's more accurate than my old meter.
So call US Med today, and you'll have a choice of 2 great meters.
One that actually speaks your results, or a meter so small it fits on the bottle of strips.
Act now, and US Med will include a free prescription discount card. We'll also send you a free diabetes cookbook. This is your opportunity.
So call US Med today.
You'll be glad you did.
Memorial Day became an official holiday in 1971, originally known as Decoration Day. The first designated observation of the holiday was in 1868. It's a chance to honor the men and women who gave their lives fighting for our country. Here on the Suncoast, we've had parades and vigils, but we wanted to share what some of you have to say about Memorial Day. Jenna Lee Morris writes, I never really understood the true meaning of Memorial Day when I was a child, but I will continue to teach my children to love, honor, and respect our fallen heroes, so they understand. Thank you to all who made the ultimate sacrifice. And Michael Overton writes, it's Memorial Day, not Veterans Day. Let's remember and honor veterans on Veterans Day. Also, veterans don't serve now, just want to educate you so you and others won't be confused. And Penny Stith writes, rest in peace, friends. Thank you for giving your all for those left behind. We remember. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And that's all the time we have for this evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alan Cohn. Have a good night.